stories of Brisco and Bradshaw. I would be Bradshaw. That would be your Chickasaw native, your Chickasaw Hall of Famer, Oklahoma's favorite son, Mr. Gerald Brisco. And we've got a treat today. One of the originals, one of the icons, the first lady of WCW, Miss Missy Hyatt. Missy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I love your show.
Thank you so much, Missy. Before we get rolling here, I'd like, we all lost a very dear friend this week, and I heard from his nephew, the Orange Sheik, of course, is who I'm speaking of. Cosgrove was a very, very funny man, a very great man for our business, and what a great heel he was. But his nephews called me, and something very near to his heart and my heart and John's, and I hope one day yours too, Missy, is the Dan Gable Wrestling Hall of Fame up in Waterloo, Iowa, with Luthez, George Trigger's professional wrestling wing with it. And Lou of Flowers sending to the Orange Sheik, he wanted all the donations to be made to the George Trigger's Luthez Hall of Fame up there, which I think is great from the family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
His two nephews, I don't know if you've ever met them, but one of them's Paige, and forgive me, I can't recall the other's name, but they've been texting me back and forth. When I heard Sheik passed away, I reached out to them because those two guys were very instrumental in keeping Sheik's legacy rolling and keeping it going and everything. And I hope they continue to do that in their own unique way there. But they called me and said that was very dear to Sheik, and I told him we'd give him a shout out on today's podcast.
That's cool.
With you and there. So
yeah.
So in lieu of flowers to Sheik, said donations to George Trigger's Luthez Hall of Fame.
You know what's cool about that, Jerry? Hogan made Hogan, so not like the guy who drops the title to him, but you had to have a heel like Sheik to drop the title to him. He had a really important role in Hulkamania getting started.
Oh, definitely. You need that heel. You need that guy that's going to make the babyface look like a superstar.
Well, speaking of heels, and although that guy, but that beautiful face beside that guy that made that guy click a lot of times. I'm talking about you, Missy. You were so instrumental in our business, and one of the true pioneers in women's wrestling. I'm not putting you back there with Fabulous Moolah and the great Mae Young, but the modern generation, and you had a very, very unique way of finding our business. You're watching TV with your dad, I understand, and of course it was good old Florida Championship Wrestling with the Brisco brothers.
It was Georgia Championship Wrestling.
Oh, well, you later found Georgia Championship Wrestling, I understand, but Dutchy Rhodes and the Briscoes and Grahams and Kearns and all those guys. But then your dad was flicking one day and passed. And of all people you see, a very mutual friend of ours and a guy we love so much, we've had on our show a few times, Michael P.S. Hayes. What an influence you showed right off the bat. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Well, all I know is that I see my dad's changing channels, and he flicks to the channel. There's Michael Hayes in the ring with Terry Gordy. They just put a baby bonnet on Terry Gordy's head. They were turning on him and put a bottle in his mouth. And I told my dad, stop. I want to watch this. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And then I was like, this is wrestling. I mean, I knew who Dusty Rhodes was. I mean, in Florida, wrestling, Dusty Rhodes, that's synonymous. So, but I didn't know they did it like weekly or nightly or anything like that. I had no idea. I was a big mark. And I just totally freaked out. I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do when I get older. I want to be in this business. I want to be there. I want to be on TV. I want to do that. And it was just, I'll never forget what they were doing. It was a pivotal time in my life.
How old were you then?
17.
Wow.
And then what happened following that? Is that when you decided?
Well, then I ended up moving to Atlanta, and I dated a couple wrestlers, and then John Tatum started dating Johnny in Atlanta, and then we moved to Charlotte, and he worked for Charlotte for about 6 months, and then he got a call for Dallas, and I went out to Dallas with him, and I was sitting backstage, and Sunshine was a babyface at the time, and they didn't have a heel, and David Manning's like, hey, do you want to come to work here? I'm like, yeah, sure. I was like, yeah, sure. What do I have to do? Go out and hit Sunshine with the purse. I can do that,
Now was your purse the famous Gucci bag?
Yes.
Did you have that with you? Was that part
yeah,
of your...
yeah. I mean, I was just like, do I want to use this one? Because I didn't have another one with me, so we used it.
So
I still have it.
So when you met John Tatum, he and Michael Hayes pretty much kind of got in the business together out of Pensacola,
cousins.
right?
Well, they say they're cousins, but I don't think they really are. I'm not sure.
But that's how Michael Hayes got into wrestling, was because of John Tatum and his dad having the Pensacola Fairgrounds, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So you said, since Michael Hayes inspired you, did you talk to Hollywood about Freebird?
Oh, he knew about that, because we met. When we went out one night, Michael and his wife and me and John, and I was still a mark, I was just like, wow, Michael Hayes. Yes.
Me and Jerry still say that.
He is the best to me, he's just the best out there, the best showman. He's got music, he's got that hair. I mean, just everything about him is awesome.
Well, he still has the music, but he don't have so much hair in him.
Yeah, I know. I heard about that.
Well, now, in fairness, Mr. Brisco, Michael has a lot of hair. It's just not like all of the same spot. It's just like here and there.
Well, I'm one to talk about not having hair, but anyway. So anyway, what a strange choice, because you're a very educated person. From what you got your college degree,
Yes.
When did you decide you're going to go on to college, and what was the process?
Oh, it was when I was living in New York City after I left WCW and stuff. I decided to go to college and get a degree in psychology. I needed it before I got into business, but anyway.
You think?
Yeah, yeah, it would have helped me out a whole lot. But I went to school. I was a med tech first, and I worked for a doctor, and then I went to school and got my 4-year bachelor's. But I'm getting ready to go back to school now too in August. Because with a psychology degree, you got to have a bachelor. You have to have a master's or a PhD to do anything in psychology, really. I mean, there's just nothing out there for you.
Well, psychology and wrestling, what are two combinations that you need one to go with the other sometimes, I think.
Exactly.
I think if we'd all taken a few psychology classes in school, we would have been better in our business.
Exactly. Some forensic psychology.
I think in the 80s in world-class championship wrestling in Dallas, a psychiatrist would go crazy.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I don't think Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung together could have solved the problems that you had in Dallas with those guys.
So exactly. your friendship with John Tatum, was that pre-wrestling days too? Did you know him in Pensacola? So you knew the family?
I didn't know him in Pensacola. I met him in Atlanta. He came up to the Eagles Nest where a lot of the wrestlers lived, in this red convertible car with this bleach blonde hair, and I fell in love.
Oh, wow.
And so
big guy gets out, and I was in love.
So when you moved to Atlanta, you weren't planning on going to college then?
No. I was just hanging out, having a good time.
That's the place to do it.
Yeah. Oh gosh, in the early 80s, Atlanta was hot Atlanta, and I know why.
So who did you know in Atlanta to make you move to Atlanta and get close to these wrestlers? I mean,
nobody. I didn't know anyone. I just moved up there.
Just cold turkey moved up there just by chance of nature. You happened to move into an apartment that had John Tatum.
I didn't move into the apartments, the Eagle. I was living up in Dunwoody, but I was hanging out there with some girlfriends of mine. We'd go in there and sit at the pool and everything and gossip.
Right.
And you saw Hollywood John Tatum and thought, that's who I want to gossip with.
Yeah, that's the man.
And then did you say you went to Charlotte with him first?
Yeah, we went to Charlotte first. And
but there was no talk of you getting in the business there.
No, they had Baby Doll. They didn't need me.
Yeah, and for those that don't remember or are old enough to know that, there wasn't a lot of women in the business. You generally had one or two. And, if you had wrestlers, they literally would just kind of wrestle each other around the circuit because there weren't many women in wrestling.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the ladies would come in and they'd wrestle around, for a couple of weeks. They would do the loop or whatever back then in the early 80s, but they didn't they wouldn't stay there. They wouldn't stay in the territory. Mullah's girls, most of the time.
Right.
So how long did you stay in Charlotte, you and John, until he got
About 6 months, I think. 6 or 8 months. He was there.
Did you have any interest in getting inside the business?
Oh yeah. I knew I wanted to be in there. I knew I didn't want to wrestle because I don't have the talent to wrestle. I just don't have the common sense to be able to know what I'm doing in there. I'm supposed to wrestle on Lubbock coming up in next month. I even bought a pair of boots. So I'm bringing them just in case. I bet they're more than old John Ash offered. $19, $20, whatever John Ash's boots were back. Oh yeah. Definitely. But I knew I wanted to be in the business. But I remember me and Jake were up late one night when I dated Jake Roberts before Johnny, and Jake and I were up late night, and I remember seeing Sunshine and Precious go at it on TV because they aired World Class in Atlanta, and I remember telling Jake, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. I want to be a valet. I want to do that. And he had sent my photos to World Class, but they hired Baby Doll instead. So I guess they already knew I wanted to be in business.
After you used the Gucci purse for the first time, was that the Sportatorium?
No, I think it was in Fort Worth.
Will Rogers.
Yeah, Will Rogers.
And then all of a sudden you were in the business and...
Yeah, I was in the business. I still have my first paycheck too.
How much was it?
$50.
Wow. That's about 35 more than what my first paycheck was.
I know.
It's 40 more than mine.
Really? Oh my gosh, I feel good. But $50 back in 1985, that's like, $100 now.
So you leave Charlotte and you go to World Class out in Dallas, and brother, man, are you bombarded with talent out there? I mean, not that Charlotte didn't have a lot of talent, but they were just starting to really bust open at the time with all the Von Erichs, and all of a sudden here you are, a little girl from Pensacola, Florida, sitting there, and you see all these, and they were superstars. I mean, people just don't understand. Tell us a little bit about how over that talent group was out there.
Let me tell you, like back then, after being on TV for a few months, I didn't realize just how big wrestling was in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We lived in Arlington, and I remember I went to like a Kmart or something to get some plants, and they didn't have the plants that I wanted. So the guy told me to go to this other Kmart. So I remember getting in my car, going to the other Kmart, and there was a guy out there with a big, like, I don't know what you call it, a big cart. Well, all these plants for me to pick from. And I thought, okay. We're like, oh, Missy Hyatt, here, these are the plants that you want. I'm like, how do you know my name? I was like, what did I do? Am I going to get arrested? It was just like, what's up with that? But no, they were big wrestling fans. And I remember going to the mall and having young girls follow me around. Well, what are you going to wear? What are you going to wear? Are you here to buy something for TV? And just anywhere we went, people would just be so friendly and so opening. And what really made us when we went to Israel, that was amazing, going to Israel.
Yeah, I told Mr. Brisco this a while back. I was in Texas recently, just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
And somebody was talking to me about a celebrity, and they used this reference. They said, the guy's that was like a Von Erich. He was so big. And this was just a couple months ago. That's how big, the Von Erichs were everything. And so were the Freebirds, but so were Brian Diaz. I mean, everybody was. People don't realize how hot that territory was.
Kerry, it just made it amazing. I mean, like if you were at the airport and you saw Kerry walking through the airport, if you didn't know he was a wrestler, you knew he was a superstar. Just by, he was either a professional football player or actor, something. He was somebody, just the way he looked. He was a god. And
the way he carried himself.
Yeah.
Some guys walk into a room and everybody knows that's somebody. And that's Kerry. It was hard to explain. So you got there right after David died, right? Yeah.
Probably about a year and a half after David died. Because I worked one of the, I think in 86, was it 86, the Texas Stadium. I think it was either the second or third one. I can't remember. It's been so long ago. I've been hit in the head too many times. But yeah, but it was probably a couple of years after David had passed. I never got to meet David. I wish I would have, because I heard he was so smart with the business.
Yeah, he was probably, as far as business sense goes, he was probably one of the most talented ones in the business sense, and also in the ring. David was phenomenal in the ring.
Yeah,
I had a great opportunity of working with him and all the Von-Erichs down here in Florida, and so yeah, David. But was you there when the funeral happened and all that? Or
no,
that was before.
No, I wasn't there then.
Yeah.
Were the Freebirds still there?
No, they had left. I think they had gone to Texas or something, but they did come back. You know, they'd come in and out.
Or was that when they went up there and Michael got fired by Andre the Giant?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Andre the Giant didn't fire Michael. He told you that on this show, John.
Yeah, that's right. The rumor has always been that Andre the Giant fired Michael, and Michael.
Oh my gosh.
Michael corrects anybody who says it. So he told us the whole story on our show that Andre was the agent, but he didn't fire him. So
he still gets hot to this day when you bring that up too, for some reason.
Oh, good. I'm gonna have to remember that if I ever see him. I'm gonna say, I can't believe Andre fired you.
He didn't correct you. When you see you're a lady, he's not gonna correct you like he does.
That's right. He cusses at us.
Yeah, he says bad words at us. You got to have a great Michael Hayes story that you were around.
Well, what was great about him, this is my only really true Michael Hayes story, is that I remember Johnny driving the car, me sitting in the car beside Johnny, and Michael sitting in the back, and he'd rub my shoulders. And I remember sitting there thinking, I was like 21 or 22 at the time, going, to see him on TV when I was 17 and felt, you know, I mean, it was just like, it was so surreal. Like I was at a young age, I was having one of those really crazy, surreal moments in my life. You know, it was just so nice to be around. He was such a great guy. He was so smart. Oh, he is so smart. I don't want to talk to him like in the past. I haven't talked to him. Last time I saw him was at Dusty's funeral, but I hadn't seen him way many years before that, and I haven't seen him since Dusty's funeral. But yeah, I remember like just being, wow, this is the coolest thing in the world.
I don't mean to upstage you, but Michael used to ride behind me in the car and he rubbed my shoulders too.
Did he? Oh,
no, he didn't. I just
he would just slap me in the back of the head. Yeah. Michael Hayes almost got me arrested for murder one time. Vehicular homicide one time up in Parkersburg, West Virginia. He told me to run over Wildfire Tommy Rich, which was all of our meal ticket at the time. And we were being with Michael Hayes, you know, I wasn't in the right state of mind to have a good sense of mind. So I said, you want to bet? I'll do it. Put the car down and drive, floorboarded a big old Lincoln Continental, hit Tommy. And the last thing we saw Tommy was rolling across the windshield, busting the windshield, rolling across the top of our car, landing in the back. Michael elbowed me. I think you just killed Wildfire.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe you did that to him.
I can't either. I still don't think I did, but both of them have confirmed the story a couple of times. So I guess
that's so crazy. I mean, Mr. Tommy Rich was Mr. TBS. He was the first big superstar, to me at least he was, in wrestling. I mean, he was Mr. Cable TV.
Right.
You know what we love, Missy?
Is the hot thing.
One of the reasons that Mr. Brisco and I love doing this show is because people that weren't around then don't understand that there were guys that were the hotter than anybody in all these different territories.
Yeah.
You know, Tommy Wildfire Ridge was the hottest baby face in the world. You know, you had Hogan, of course, up, you know, in WWE with the global television, but Tommy Wildfire Ridge to a lot of people was the baby face. You know, Kerry.
Yeah, he sure was. I mean, he was on covers of magazines. I mean, he was the baby face in the early 80s. I mean, nobody could touch him.
And John Tatum, I've always been I don't know whatever happened to John. I heard
he lives in Texas now. He lives in Texas with his son.
I didn't know that.
He retired from the fairgrounds. Did you ever wrestle him?
I did. Several times.
Did in Global?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was one of my questions, but I got questions to ask
Hollywood was a great heel. It was a terrific worker. I mean,
and great facial expressions.
Oh my goodness, his facial expressions were insane.
Yeah,
They were
just
so
did
over
it
the
all.
top.
I know. I don't know where he got those from. He always had them though. He always had them. I'll never forget him going, "Oh, Missy, oh."
He'd almost cry. He'd almost actually cry in the ring when he would.
Yeah.
Something would go
when
wrong.
He lose, oh my gosh, when he lost, it was the funniest thing. You would have not laughed at him, but it was so good. It was so good.
Where is he in Texas? Where is he in Texas?
In Dallas, north of Dallas.
I didn't know that. I'd love to see him sometime.
He was supposed to come to the reunion, to the world class reunion, but he no-showed me.
John, do you have one of those coming up?
No, we just had it.
Okay. They just had it. We might have one coming up in August for Black Bart.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah. I just found out about it today. Bart gave me a call, and I saw on social media this thing was up, so I don't know much more about it than I know they're doing a fundraiser for Black Bart out in Gilmer, Texas, I believe.
Oh, okay.
So from Dallas, how did you end up going? Then you went from there to WWE, or you went there to
UWF.
To Bill Watts,
Ken
right?
Mantell took everybody, and we kind of left world class and went to UWF. He took me. He took John Tatum. He took Jack Victory, the Freebirds, One Man Gang. I'm trying to think who else. Like a lot of people left with Ken Mantell when he got the booking job in UWF, and we went there.
And that was when Crockett was buying up a couple of these territories, right?
No, this was before when Watts still owned it. Watts owned it for about a year before Crockett came in to buy it.
And was business still good in Dallas at that time?
No, it started going bad after we all left. And then Global came in,
Yeah. Because you had that run there of 85, 86 that was still good after
it was great in 85 and 86 because I was there then. But after we left and Ken took all the talent, it kind of went, went sideways. And
went sideways.
The problems with Carrie and the problems with Mike and just, Fritz couldn't get a break.
Was Gary Hart involved at that time? Anytime?
Yeah.
What would you think of Gary? Gary's one of our all-time favorite guy. I mean, Gary. I've known Gary since I started in the business.
Well, when we worked in Crockett, when we first started working in Crockett, he's the one that wanted Muda to spray mist on me instead of Eddie, and so Muda sprayed me twice. He thought that would be better heat. And back then, in like '87, spraying a girl with the green mist. That's heat.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. You did some earth-shattering things for our business for the very first, and you got to be proud of all those things there. But
well, thank you.
You took a lot of abuse and a lot of gimmicks from the guys there. It had to be, looking back on it, has to be a great thing.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. When I think about Buddy Roberts trying to pee on me one time, I just all the other.
Wait a minute, Buddy Roberts tried to pee on you?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was in Fort Worth at Will Rogers. We had that one bathroom right there, and they had the stalls. And then they had the opening place. And I remember I went in there and I would have John watch the door so I could change clothes. And I'm in there and I hear somebody going, and so I'm thinking, oh man, somebody's watching or somebody's doing something. So I took off a boot and I kick it in the air. And I'm like, da, 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 like I'm going to strip. And I finally, something tells me to look up. There's Buddy Roberts crunched with his hands on the ceiling and his feet like a frog up in between the panels of the bathroom. And he was going to pee on me. I come running out half naked going, Buddy's going to pee on me.
So he waited up there for you just so he could pee on you?
Yeah.
That's
you think Buddy was a little strange, Don?
I'm sorry, what?
But Buddy was strange even for a Freebird.
Yeah, I know, right?
So he literally waited in the ceiling.
He waited up there. Yeah, I don't know how he got up there too. I just remember his hands were like to the ceiling, and then the top of the stall. There's like about 4 3 feet maybe, and he was crunched up there like that, like a frog.
And so he didn't like just want to see you naked. He wanted to actually use
He
the
wanted to
bathroom
actually
on you.
pee on me. Yeah, he was trying to pee on me. Because I heard, I mean, at least I was told by John that it's really cool to be peed on by a free bird. Like, you know, you're one of the boys and everything. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be like one of the boys, you know. I
was one of the boys, and Michael Hayes tried to pee on me about several times. I told him I'd break it off of him if he ever did it. And he never peed on me.
That's good. That's good.
Michael got
I don't
me
know about those Freebirds.
Michael got me and Dutch one time. So we dropped him. Oh, yeah. We drop him off at the hotel. We're staying there too, but we're going to park the car. So we let Michael out. And I knew what Michael was going to do. I knew. I'm driving. Dutch is in the passenger, and Michael knocks on the window, and Dutch is rolling the window down. As he does, I drop the keys, so that way I can't go anywhere. And next thing you know, Dutch is going. Michael is peeing through the window. And it's
so
splattering
crazy.
all over me too. But watching Dutch react was one of the funniest things. Dutch was, I thought Dutch was going to kill him. And then Michael runs into the hotel, and that was it.
Oh my gosh, that's
so
fun.
I didn't
That's
actually
a good story.
get like peed on by a free bird, but I did get splashed from it.
By a free bird. Well, hey, you're one of the boys. You're and you're in a cool club. You know,
That's
a cool
right.
club.
That's right. And I had to keep Dutch from getting us fired for wanting to kill Michael.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I bet.
Oh,
So-
you got some questions there, Missy?
I do. I have some questions. This is for Mr. JBL.
Uh-oh.
All right. I asked you about the John Tatum one, but I wanted to ask you, tell me about, wasn't the Sportatorium one of the hottest buildings? I mean, it looked archaic, but on TV, it was awesome.
Oh, and
You
TV
have
is one of the greatest.
Sportatorium stories.
Yeah, it's one of the greatest arenas ever. I mean, by far. You know how it was. You walk right down through the fans. They're right on top of you. They surrounded you on basically almost 3/4 of the arena because half the arena had burned down at some point. They just put a wall there that was not insulated, and so they just put a wall there. So it was hotter than hell in the summer. You remember,
right?
It was miserable hot, and then it was freezing cold in the winter. The wind would actually blow through the walls. It was so freaking bad. That was the worst arena in the world. They should have condemned that thing so long before.
Yeah, right. And the rats that they said they were in the oil for the French fries and stuff.
Yeah, there were a lot of rats.
Yeah.
Four-legged, right?
Four-legged.
Yeah, they were four-legged,
rats.
the four-legged rats.
Yeah.
I was with Black Bart and Dick Murdoch one time when Bart wrestled in his entire coat and everything. It was so cold. He wouldn't take it off. He was freezing. Oh, it was miserable cold. That arena was such a bad arena as far as there was nothing good about it.
Yeah, there was no dressing rooms really. We used to change in the offices. They didn't have dressing rooms.
There wasn't for women. There, for the guys, you had the dressing rooms right on the door on the left when you walked in. Then they had the office.
I never went in there. All I know is I used to have to go into the office and Bronco's office.
Yeah, one of the Samoans broke the toilet, and the whole thing just imploded. It's just the whole thing disintegrated. So he lost.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wait a minute. He broke it by what? Setting on it or
setting on it? He was a big guy, but it had taken big guys before. But apparently, he'd been taking big guys for too long, and finally, the whole thing imploded.
Oh my god!
Just imploded. The damn thing just disappeared.
That's funny. Is it true that Metal Maniac broke kayfabe in Global by standing in line to take a Polaroid with Carrie?
Yes. Yes. I forgot all about that story. Yes. I hadn't heard that name Metal Maniac in 30 years or 25 years. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was in the dressing room, and Carrie usually dressed upstairs. I think the kayfabe is foot, or what was missing of his foot. And he'd always come downstairs dressed. So he always had his upstairs dressing room. Of course, that was where a lot of the guys went upstairs to get to feeling better too. So he was upstairs, and Metal Maniac left the dressing room and went and got in line. And this is one of the boys, Gerald. This is one of the boys.
I
got in line and took a Polaroid picture, paid for it with Kerry Von Erich. in his gimmick.
Yeah.
In his gimmick? Oh my
Yeah,
God.
for what I remember. Now, if I'm wrong about that, I won't apologize. I don't care, but it's just,
We'll find out.
I believe he was in his gimmick because as soon as he did it, we found out about it in the dressing room.
Oh, did you just terrorize him about that?
I don't remember. Because I think the guys were just like couldn't believe it that this guy had done this. Because kayfabe was pretty strong there.
Yeah.
And pretty strong back then. And he goes out and gets in line and takes a photo with Carrie and takes a picture. I have no idea. Whatever happened to that guy?
I have no idea.
I don't even
have
remember
no
if he
idea.
worked
I just
or not.
heard the
I don't
story.
remember him that well.
I wasn't sure if it was true.
Yeah, it was true. Yeah.
Also, were you there when
Missy, I'm going to interrupt you here. You brought up something. I'm old. I'll forget it if I don't ask you right away. So you mentioned Carrie's foot. I heard you went to extreme difficulties one time to find out if the rumor was true about his foot.
I did. I got snonkered drunk. And me and Carrie, he was with the WWE at the time, and I was with WCW, and we met up somewhere as after the show, and they were in Atlanta. And I saw him, and we started hanging out and drinking shot after shot. And I'm like, I'm going to find out if he has a foot or not. I know I'm going to get him drunk. He's going to pass out, and I'm going to look. Well, we get totally drunk off our tails, and we go to my apartment, and I ended up passing out. And I woke up the next morning. He was laying there with his boots on, with like cowboy boots on or whatever. And I was like, oh man, I got a hangover, and I didn't even find out if he had a foot or not.
Great.
It was bad.
So yeah.
But were you there when Chris Adams ripped off Rod Price's hairs?
I was there. I
Okay.
believe I was. You know what? People forget. So I believe I was there because he went to like Bill Fro Rod. They'd had I don't know if they had a little heat before that or not. I can't remember. Because at one point I think, and I don't want to speak for Rod. He's a good friend of mine. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Really good guy. I think Rod thought maybe it was on purpose at one point because Chris called him. I don't remember if Rod did or not, or if Rod was just a little bit mad because it was maybe reckless. But he went to Bill for him, and Jerry, he had those plugs in his hair, and when he went to Bill for him, he pulled his hair out. I mean, pulled his scalp
I
off.
thought it was extensions or something. I didn't know it was the plugs that came out.
I believe it was the plugs because when he pulled him out, Rod was pretty upset and came back.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's mad at Chris or just the whole situation that happened. I was there. Rod went across. I think he went across the liquor store because he's mad. Liquor store right across the street.
Right,
and that's when his head started bleeding. And
oh my gosh.
covered in blood. And he had to have, oh man, I don't remember, tens of stitches.
Oh my God.
From what I remember. Now, we need to get Rod on here to ask him the whole story because
you need to. I'd like to find out about that.
I hate these guys who make up stories and all this stuff.
And they get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. There was a ton of blood. Rod had to have it, I believe, sewed back up. Chris called him later that week, say, hey, we need to talk and work it out. Chris didn't do it on purpose, from what I remember, and Rod was fine with that. Rod believed him. I don't think there was any animosity between Chris and Rod. It's just something that happened.
Okay. No, that's good.
Rod had the plugs, but I don't think he it didn't really make it known that he had plugs.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to do that.
So it's just kind of I think it was just a mistake. But yeah, he pulled his hair out of his head.
God, that had to have hurt really bad.
Yeah.
Now I gotta ask you this question. How does a Texan with no tattoos get booked to become the American Vampiro? And did the gimmick get over?
Sometimes I wonder if he's a real Texan, Melissa. Because he don't live down there.
Well, here's the part I didn't know. I didn't know that Vampiro had gotten into some heat with Elizondo, who ran Monterey, CMLL.
Right.
And he had punched one of his stooges, which I have no problem with punching a stooge. So believe me, I'm sure it was justified. I have no idea what happened, but anyway, so they cut him off at that point from working in Monterey, and he was, I believe, the champion at the time. So that they took the championship from him, in absent, in being gone, and they brought me down as the American Vampire. They'd seen me working a border show with Carrie, by the way, and they wanted me to come down and be the American Vampiro. Well, I thought I was going down like the Dark Patriot to the Patriot. You know, I thought Vampiro was in on it. I thought it was I was coming down as the heel vampire. I had no idea I was coming down as Elizondo trying to stick it to Vampiro. I had no idea that.
So was Vampiro pissed? Was Vampiro pissed?
Yes. Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, so they put the title on me, and Vampiro's title. Not only that, Missy, listen to this. They went down and Vampiro had bought a new gimmick, a whole new gimmick, the clothes and everything.
Right.
He had paid for it. I believe he paid for it. But he had ordered it at the seamstress shop in Monterey. They went down and picked it up and gave me his stuff.
Oh my God.
I don't know that he's not in on it. I think he's the one that gave me the stuff. So I'm sitting there, I'd worked the loop, we're bringing in the vampire to work against me. I'm the heel vampire. He sold Monterey out. He was as hot as Hogan down there. I mean,
that's what I heard.
Was as over as a person could be. So we're working in Monterey, the Plaza del Toros. He sold the place out. This is the first time the two vampires are going to meet. I was a horrible vampire. He was a good vampire. He was very good at it. I was terrible. And I'm sitting there in the dressing room, and for the first time I meet him. I think he's been in on the whole thing. I thought it was probably his idea to bring me down. I didn't know I'm a thorn in his flesh, that Elizondo is bringing me down to mess with him. So I'm sitting there across from him in this little bitty room, and he's just eyeballing me, and I could tell there's heat, and I can't figure out why. So we go to talk over the match. He's just eyeballing me. Finally, I said, "Do we have heat?" And he said, "You're wearing my shit." and I said, "Well, yeah, that's the idea. I'm wearing your stuff, and I'm gonna drop the title to you, and then drop the name to you, and all this stuff." And yeah, he goes, "No, you're wearing my shit." And he's looking at me, and I thought, he's about to punch me, and I have no idea why he's mad at me. I'm not clueless. And all of a sudden, he just relaxes and he goes, "You're not in on it, are you?" And I said, "In on what?" And then he tells me the whole story, that he had bought this. Think about this. I've got his title on. I've got his stuff on that he ordered. And I'm sitting in front of him in a dressing room. He's got to be thinking, this is the craziest person on the planet. And so when he figured out what it was, I just laughed. I said, "This is the greatest story ever." And he did too. He at that point, he thought it was funny. He had no idea I wasn't in on it.
Well, didn't Elizondo like this?
I wasn't on it. I see him years later in the elevator. He was a big, tall, good-looking guy. His head shaved, and so I didn't recognize him right away. He goes, "You're not gonna say hi to me?" And you know how you don't look at people in the elevator. And I said, "I'm sorry." He goes, "You're wearing my shit." Like, oh my God. Yeah. So I was a horrible vampire, but I got to be in front of a lot of sold out arenas because I was wrestling a very good vampire who was
very good vampire.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that
he was great to me, by the way.
Elizondo.
I can't say enough nice things about him. He was really nice to me, and it was a pleasure to work with him.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because Elizondo liked those male stripper types, how you got to be an American vampire.
That I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'll take it as a compliment,
sure.
I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I'll take it as a compliment, though. If I look anything like a male stripper.
You don't.
But that's what I heard that Elizondo was the male stripper types.
Yeah, maybe I'm like a cover boy for Farm Almanac or something. Maybe not.
Oh my God.
Maybe not Male Strippers Inc.
Okay, I got a Japan question to ask you.
Okay.
You later got booked as Death Mask, doing a knockoff Undertaker gimmick for War. Did you work with Tenryu, and did you get any dinners with Businessman with missing pinkies?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They brought me over, and I didn't know I was going over as Death Mask. It was an Undertaker ripoff. It was terrible. I hated it. But they brought me in, and I was jumping from Kendo Nagasaki's group, NOW, to Tenryu, who was a much bigger group. It was like a really big break for me. And they brought me in, and they said, "We can't bring you in the same gimmick." I said, "Okay." They said, "We're going to do this Death Mask gimmick." And I didn't understand it. It was an Undertaker ripoff. It was a cowboy Undertaker. I hated it. I thought it was just
cowboy Undertaker.
I thought it was terrible to put me in a ripoff gimmick. Not that the gimmick couldn't work, but that I was ripping off a really good guy.
Yeah.
And so they said, we're not going to leave you in it for long. And they didn't. I think I worked that one tour, and then they put me back in the regular cowboy gimmick. So they kept their word.
Okay. Well, you look better than
really,
the regular cowboy.
I absolutely hated that. But I did get to work with Tenru a lot, and they brought me back, and I got a good spot out of it.
And let's say, okay. Was it true? Oh no, this is a Smoky Mountain one. Is it okay? Was it true that you were going to work for Smoky Mountain before it folded?
Yeah, it's a joke between me and Cornette to this day. So
really?
Jim said he's going to bring me in.
What was he going to do for you? What were your plans?
I have no idea. I don't think we got that far. He was going to bring me in for a job. I asked him for a job. He said he's going to bring me in, and then his company folded. So I keep telling him I'm reporting for duty.
Oh my gosh!
And in fact,
was it true that guys were making $40 a night?
Jim, I love Jim Cornette, and I wanted to work for him. And the company ended up folding. He went to WWE, and so I never got to work for him.
Oh, okay. And
but yes, I got booked in a territory that folded. So some guys actually kill territories after they get there. I killed it before I went.
You killed it before you got
I'm
there.
the reason
Just the mention of you coming killed it.
Yes.
So you worked one tour for All Japan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you attempt to become Mrs. Baba's favorite wrestler, or did Johnny Ace have that spot all booked up?
Very good. Very good. I know, John.
Stop it, Mr. Brisco. No, what happened is that was the tour that Barry Windham got me booked over there. Barry Windham got me booked so that I could get a job, was the reason. And I love Barry Windham to this day. And for this and for so many other reasons. So I was working in WWE, and I was leaving the next day after what ended up being the Montreal screw job.
Oh, okay.
We were up in Canada, me and Barry, we drove the next town. So we missed the fallout of the match. So I left when the match started. So we missed all the fallout of the match itself. But then the next day we flew to Japan. And I think Barry JR had mentioned to Barry that they're kind of looking for a liaison between WWE and Japan. And I assumed that was kind of going to be Barry's role. Barry was trying to help me get a job because my contract was up with WWE. I didn't think I was going to get re-signed. And so I went to Japan and did either 5 or 6 weeks in the tag tournament, working with Stan and Doc and all the guys. And my goal was to get a job in Japan so that in case WWE didn't re-sign me, then I could stay in Japan and work and finish my career over there with Stan and the guys. But then I don't know if it had anything to do with the Montreal screw job or not, but by the time I came home, they decided they want to re-sign me. And I don't know if that was because they were losing guys at WCW. I don't think anybody really cared about Justin Hawk Bradshaw at the time. So I don't know what the impetus for it was, but I ended up getting a job with WWE and staying.
Oh, okay.
That was my first guaranteed contract. Was the contract I got with WWE when I came back.
Oh, really? That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Did you ever get to work with Misawa or Kobayashi or Kawada? I'm probably not saying their names. I see them.
Worst concussion I ever got was from Kobayashi. By far, he did a spinning back fist, gave me the worst concussion. I couldn't even sit up on the bus. My head was so bad, and it was like that the entire tour. So when I came back from Japan, I got a message from JR that they wanted to re-sign me. They wanted me to fly to Portland, Maine. I didn't want to tell him I had a concussion because now I'm damaged goods. They wouldn't re-sign me. And so I told him I couldn't come to TV, and I think he thought I was using it as a negotiation tactic, but I wasn't. And so he said, well, we want to re-sign you. We're going to send you. I said, well, send me an MOU. I'll sign it, send it back to you, make sure it's binding. And then I'll come to TV at the next show. I said, because finally I told him, I said, look, I got to be honest. I've been over there with Stan. I've been drinking this whole time. I'm not in good shape. I don't want to come to TV right now. I didn't want to tell him I had a concussion.
Right.
So he goes, okay, well, get yourself.
Yeah.
JR was great. He was great with it. He said, okay.
So you figured you'd lie. You figured being a drunk was better than having a concussion.
Oh, yeah. Yes. He knew I tagged with Murdoch, so he believed the drunk story.
Yeah. They're so much more apt to be more lenient on a I have a hangover and I've been drunk for 2 weeks and I have a concussion.
Yeah. Because in concussion, they have a liability. Being a drunk, they think I might sober up one day.
Yeah, exactly.
And
you
never did. You never did.
JR understood it. He said, "That's great." He goes, "Get yourself in shape. We'll start you again at the Royal Rumble." So when I went to Royal Rumble, that was my big push, but it was a big push. Like I'm in there like 30 minutes or something. Then all of a sudden the finish happened. So they're like, "Give me this push," where you don't really, you're just like cannon fodder basically. But
right.
I didn't know if I took the first bump, if my head would explode because I had this horrible concussion. Because I didn't take a bump, I couldn't do nothing.
Oh my gosh!
So I'm scared when I get in the Royal Rumble that all of a sudden I'm gonna take a bump and I'm gonna start seeing double again, and my head will get all screwed up. And fortunately, I was over the concussion and nothing happened.
Was it with a kick or a chop, or how did
spinning back fist? He did that spinning back fist, and he caught me right in the neck. And when he did, somehow I've been hit much harder, but he caught me just right or something. My vision went blurred. At first, my head started ringing. It was like that for almost a month.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
That's serious.
It was a nice, serious concussion.
God. Okay, I got my last question for you.
Okay.
How was Tully Blanchard in the NWA Dallas?
I didn't work with Tully there.
Oh, you didn't?
I worked with Tully in Crockett was going to open up in Chattanooga, I think.
Oh, okay.
I went there with Tully there, and that's where all the heat started, me and Tully. And it's I'm going to take 100% blame for this because I'm not going to blame Tully. I thought he blew me off. In hindsight, maybe he didn't. I didn't see him till years later when I saw him. I blew up. Very unprofessional and shouldn't have done it. But that's where the heat started with Tully. He was the booker for Crockett there. So.
Okay.
Tully
never talked to me.
The problem I had was I'd flown in from Japan to Dallas. And then me and James Beard got in a car and drove straight to Chattanooga. We had no sleep. We had flown in from Tokyo. And I got there and I didn't think we were treated right. In hindsight, Tully didn't know me, and he did absolutely nothing wrong. So I will take 100% credit for being overreacting.
Oh, okay, that's pretty good. I like that.
And since I've sent Tully a lot of texts since. I've apologized to him since about blowing up when he came into WWE because that was really unprofessional. I should have talked to him, but I should have talked to him to the side. And I do mean talk to him. I don't mean, contentious. I should have just talked to him. He's a very nice guy. And
Tully was really stuck up when I was in WCW. He was very stuck up. Like he never talked to me, nothing. It wasn't until like maybe a few years ago I saw him at an autograph signing and I said, "Can I have my picture with you for Twitter?" And he's like, "Sure." And I put my arm around. I was like, "Wow, you have no body fat on you. You're amazing. You're the best looking wrestler I've seen." Because his hair's all short and gray. I mean, he looks really good. He's a lot better looking now than he was 30 years ago. I don't know why, but he's like, "You never talked to me." I'm like, "You never talked to me." What was I going to say? It's just weird. It was like a weird it was a weird thing.
But to stop any talk on social media, I was at some event and one of Tully's friends or a relative maybe came by, and I sent Tully a text. I have number and some text. Hey, it's so and so, and anyway, we're very friendly now.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's really good. I squashed my heat with Dark Journey too. So.
So tell us about that heat then, if you don't mind.
Oh my God, let me tell you something. We didn't know what we were doing in the ring. The guys used to come out to watch our matches because they were like, "Oh, we're going to go see the girls fight," because it was a shoot. And she would hear the fans yell for her and she would just rip my hair out and beat the living crap out of me. Every night for almost a year, I cried. I never cried in the dressing room because John said, "If you cry in the dressing room, they'll never let you live it down." So I always waited until we got in the car and then I'd be like, "Oh, my knee hurts. Oh, my hurts." But we didn't know what we were doing. They didn't give us any lessons. They didn't tell us. They just told us to go out there and fight.
So if I got this right there, so the instructions at that time in WCW, when the girls would go, you guys, did you get agents to kind of lead it, tell you to fill in the match, or how did you do it?
They would just say, "Okay, you're gonna, when Link, you does something, you pull Link's leg And then that start journey to run around, and then you roll in the ring, she rolls in after you, you tie up for a little bit, and then John will pull you apart. That's all we were told.
Fill in the blanks, right?
Yeah, fill in the blanks. Let her beat the living crap. I mean, I had a bald spot on my head. I mean, it wasn't fun. It wasn't.
How much training did you have as a wrestler, in-ring wrestler? Zero. That's what I was thinking. You didn't have any. Huh?
So nobody even got in the ring with you to show you how to take a bump or anything?
Never. No, Sunshine taught me how to do, like, hold the hair, you know, you hold the wrists, and Sunshine kind of worked with me a little bit, but no, we never got in the ring and tried anything out because you couldn't kayfabe, you know, where could we do it at that there wouldn't be people to see it?
And nobody taught you how to take a bump or anything? Wow.
So everything you see is a shoot.
So there this time we talked about before we got in the questions, which were actually very good questions, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. How was your time with WWE? Was it good?
It was short. I sucked really bad. They wanted me to be a baby face, and I didn't even know how to be a heel. I'd only been in the business like 2 years, and I was supposed to take over Piper's Pit and call it Missy's Manor. And they had a set built for me. I got all these cool clothes. It was really great. But Vince wanted me to be a baby face, and I did some TV tapings, and they were horrible. So they had me do it again, and I begged him, let me go out there and just let me be my Missy character, and let me just try to do it like that and see. No, you got to be a baby face. We want you as a baby face, and it was horrible. It was horrible. And then they wanted me to be a federette and then do something with Honky Tonk Man, and I was like, I don't think I want to be a federette.
How did you get that call up to WWE?
I sent photos of me and Eddie up to Vince, and Vince called us.
Was Eddie a part of the deal too?
Yeah, Eddie was going to go up there, but they told him Eddie thought he was going to get Piper's Pit. When he found out he wasn't going to get Piper's Pit, he wanted to stay in UWF and book it'd be the assistant booker in UWF. But I was like, I'm going to WWE. I don't know about you, but I'm getting a doll. You know. My head got real big.
Yeah. You could see those action figure dollars coming.
I didn't care about the money. I just wanted an action figure. I just thought that was going to be the coolest thing. Like, I'm going to have a Barbie doll.
So did Vince call you to come in, or
Vince did.
You sent the pictures up? Who did you send the pictures to? Vince or Pat?
Vince. Okay. I sent them to Vince.
And did Vince fly you up for the meeting for here's what we want to do and all that?
Yeah, he flew us up there and, you know, picked us up at the airport and took us up to Connecticut, and we went in there, and he's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Eddie, you can manage, or you can wrestle, you can do whatever you want to do. Missy, we want to do Piper's Pit with you. And that's when I found out. I was just like, okay. And like the first time I did an interview, I asked Jimmy Hart a question, and I'm holding the microphone like this. After I asked him a question, he like, you know, moves it over. I didn't know how to interview people. No one told me what to do, but the stuff was like scripted out. Like Vince told me what to say and I said it. And it was horrible stuff. You can see it on YouTube. It's really bad. Really bad.
You know, people don't realize that, you know, when we started, there wasn't training.
No.
You learned on the fly, which can be kind of tough.
Well, the only reason why I learned how to do interviews is because when we pulled up to do interviews the first time, John, they said, sounded drunk, even though it was 10 o'clock in the morning and he wasn't drunk. But they said, John, you sound drunk. Let Missy do the interviews. Okay, you go 30 seconds, you against Sunshine, Lubbock, Texas. If John loses, she gets 30 minutes or a minute in the ring with you. I don't remember the stipulation. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. That's how I learned how to do interviews.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we used to do markets. I'm sure you did the same way down in.
Yeah, you do the separate markets for each one.
You'd line up and then you'd have 20 interviews in a row.
Yeah.
You know, a minute and a half. Okay, you got Killer in a barbed wire match and a cage match in Fort Worth. You got Carrie in a lumberjack match. Give us a minute. Right. So yeah, so you did one after another,
right?
All on the job training.
Yeah, it was on the job training. I didn't know what I was doing. And I was way over my head in the WWF. I was just way over my head. I didn't know if I was coming or going.
The culture was so different there because of the TV aspect of it.
Yeah.
I was the same way, Mitzi. When I first went up there, I thought, I've been with TBS, I'd been with Florida, I've been with Carolinas. I went up there and it was like walking into a new world for me.
Yeah.
All this new technology was starting to be developed, and all these different aspects of TV tapings were incorporated. I felt like you and everybody else, I'm lost in this environment here. Somebody, and there's nobody to teach you. You just got to start asking questions and jump in.
Yeah, I didn't. I just did what Vince said, and it sucked. And I hate saying that because maybe somebody else could have done it better. I don't know. They didn't get anybody else to do it, but.
Yeah. So how long did this gig last for you?
I did 2 TV tapings for him.
Yeah.
And on the third one, they wanted me to be a featurette. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do that.
What was a featurette? A knockoff?
One of the girls that took ring
of the
jackets.
Nitro girls or something like that?
Yeah, these girls, they took ring jackets.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be one of 3 or one of 2 or 3. I don't remember.
So where did you end up after that?
I went back and went to Dusty and begged him for a job.
Yeah.
And that's when Crockett was Crockett was living in Dallas. And Dusty put me back on TBS and the Crockett shows.
And you were almost at one point Randy Savage's ballet, right?
Yeah. Because I had sent Jake and this is when me and John, I sent my pictures to George Scott and said, I'd like to be a ballet. And I think he thought I was Baby Doll or something because I was from Dallas, Texas. And I sent it to him, and he called me. He said, we're looking for a ballet or a female to do Randy Poffo. And I went, oh, okay, I can do that. It's like, okay, I can do it. Yeah, I'd do anything, right? And so John told David Manning that, hey, WWF called for Missy. And so that's when David Manning was like, hey, do you want to come to work here? I was like, yeah, sure. But I never heard anything. And then I heard that Randy wanted his wife to do it, or girlfriend to do it, because he liked double paychecks.
That's easy to believe, isn't it, Mr. Brisco?
No kidding. Randy, yes.
However much Randy made, Randy kept all of it.
Oh my gosh, I know. He was so tight with his money when he walked, he squeaked.
So then when did you end up, then you ended up in WCW for the long run, right?
Well, no, I was in WCW for a little bit, and then we went to Memphis, then we went to Continental, and then back to WCW.
And that's when you had the long run there at WCW.
Yeah, from like 89 to 94.
How was it during that time?
I always just kept my mouth shut and just was happy that I was getting a check until I was finding out other things, like certain people that were doing the same job as me was making $250,000 more a year than me. And then I was the lowest paid person there. And I was making them $500,000 alone off the hotline alone. And my calendar sold more than the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders calendar, certain things like that. And I didn't get any money for that.
Wow.
And but I kept my mouth shut because I was told, I think it was Oli either told me this. One of them said to me, you better shut up and be happy you have a job. You don't have a wife and kids to feed.
So that gives them a right to underpay you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It is strange how the merchandising has completely changed our business with the talent, especially, and again, I'm so happy for that, because back in our days, I mean, you were lucky to just get a payoff for showing up for work, but nowadays there's so many different revenue streams. There's so many different ways to market somebody like a Missy Hyatt nowadays, and even when there was back when you were starting in the business.
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know why I didn't have, I went and had a photo shoot with Playboy in 1989 or 90. And Playboy wanted me to do a pictorial for him. And I told Jim Ross, and Jim took it to the board, and they said, no, we can't have an on-air talent in Playboy. And just think what that would have done for my career.
Yeah.
They missed the boat on a lot of stuff. I just don't think they knew what to do with me or whatever. But, I just
once again, Missy, I think it's that world, of being in the South and then said no. Then being in Vince's world of Playboy at that time.
yeah.
I mean, he had everybody he could get in Playboy.
Yeah, exactly. And I could have been the first to do that. It just aggravates the crap out of me that I, lost that chance to do that. And I was getting ready to call my dad to tell him I was going to do it because he was going to lose that gasket. Oh my God. First off, they didn't like me being in wrestling and on TV and acting like a dumb bomb bimbo. My mom was like, can't you be nice on TV? I'm like, Mom, I don't get paid to be nice.
So that was the reaction you were getting from your parents when
Oh yeah, they were just like, and my dad didn't like. I'd send him tapes when I first started. He didn't want to watch them because people were throwing beer on me and nacho cheese and stuff like that. I can't watch that. I can't watch you getting pilfered with beer and nachos, But that's a dad for you. But I was getting ready to call him to tell him I was going to do Playboy and have him lose it. I mean, probably never talk to me again. Thank God I didn't, because it didn't go through.
And so then after, what happened at WCW? Was it new management coming in that you?
I went through a bunch of different management. Jim Hurd, Ole Anderson, Bill Watts. I went through so many people in 5 years. There was always somebody new. I was taking off
there
TV.
When Eric came in?
Yeah, I was there when Eric came in. Eric was an announcer, and they had him on the Canadian show with me because he sucked as an announcer, and he was really bad. Anyway, I don't know how he got WCW to let him do what he did. I don't know, but anyway, somebody got something. I don't know. Anyway, he ended up firing me because Jason Hervey was his good friend, and he thought Jason could get him into Hollywood and he could be a producer or something out in Hollywood. And so me and Jason broke up, and so he fired me.
And is that when you end up going to ECW after that?
Yeah, I went to ECW about a year and a half, 2 years later. I went to ECW for about a year.
That had to be a big change for you.
Oh my gosh. Finding a chair to sit down in, because all the chairs were broken in the back in that ECW arena. And it was such a dirty, I would, because I always like to read. So I went out to one area and read where there was like one light bulb that I could read. That place was so dirty and so disgusting. It was so horrible. But I mean, the fans were crazy. The fans were magnificent there. That was fun.
And Paul Heyman, how was Paul to work with?
Paul's great. I met him in Atlanta doing an indie show. Me and Eddie met him. And I fell in love with Paul. And I'm the one that got Paul to come to Continental Wrestling. I made Eddie book him. I was like, Eddie, you got to get Paul. Because me and him would sit up on the phone all night gossiping about angles and wrestling and stuff like that. He's like a girl gossiping. And we'd be on the phone every night talking. And so he finally came to Alabama and then went to WCW with us and stuff. So I've known Paul forever. He's smart.
Paul's a very, very bright man and very, very valuable to our business, even today after all these years. The guy's just brilliant. Everything
He's so brilliant. He's so brilliant.
So this is the time also that you're deciding, hey, maybe I should go to college, or
that's when I decided to go to college after that.
So tell us
just
about
work
that.
Indie shows and go to college.
Okay. What drove you that? ECW or what?
No, I just, I was living in New York and not doing anything really. And I thought, well, this is my time to get a degree. I want to go to school. And first I was a med tech and I worked for a plastic surgeon and I really liked that. But then I wanted to go back and just finish and get my bachelor's. And so then I went to Marymount Manhattan College to do that. And then I moved to Tampa for a little bit and I hated it. Then moved back to New York because I loved it. And then moved to Tallahassee after my daddy passed away to live with my mom to take care of her. And I've been there ever since.
So do you have any questions for Mr. Brisco as well?
I wasn't sure, so I didn't make any. I'm sorry. But maybe you'll have me on again. Maybe you'll have me on again, and then next time I can do my questions.
Well, I'm glad they were all for JBL, to tell you.
You don't know how relieved.
They were very good questions.
You don't know how relieved Mr. Brisco is right now.
I know. I wasn't sure if I could, if it would be appropriate to ask him questions, because I'm still old school. I didn't want to ask any.
Oh, so you ask the kid questions, but you won't ask Mr. Brisco questions.
Yeah, well, I can do that with you, but
Well,
I gotta have
thank you.
respect.
I guess. Thank you.
Yeah, it's out of respect.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, to go back to your question, that roster that New Japan had, Old Japan had at that time, that was one of the best I've ever seen. When you had Misawa,
Really?
And Kabashi and Stan, Doc, Gary. That whole card was just loaded. I was blown away by the talent.
Well, I asked you this before about Stan Hansen. Is it true he's stiff, or is he nearsighted, or is he just stiff?
Well, as
Mr.
Stiff.
Brisco, I'll tell you, he's just stiff. We were with Stan not long ago, and some autograph thing up in St. Louis is where it was, and Stan took off his glasses, started talking, and he could see. I handed him a drink, and he reached right out and got the drink. I said, "All right, that right there proves to me, Stan, that being blind was just a gimmick. You're just a stiff SOB." I'm not stiff. I'm not stiff. You remember that, John?
Absolutely. Yeah. And right away he put his glasses back on. He goes, no, I'm not stiff.
I'm not stiff. Yeah.
Hey, Missy, we caught him with the belt, the old title belt story from Denver, when he walked out with it and wouldn't put over.
Yeah.
And he mailed it back to Vern all beat up with a ball peen hammer and rubber by his truck. So we had him on our show, and Stan is ultimately taking the high road. He said, guys, that's just all rumor. And I said, well, rumor was you ran over it with a four-wheeler. He goes, no, it's a tractor. He goes, oh, wait a minute.
Oh my gosh.
Were you asked to do a gimmick with an angle with Stan at one time? Or?
Yeah, I sure did. I was looking for, they had this female in football who was in a locker room trying to get interviews, and some guy pulled his penis out and put it in her face. And so there was a big uproar about should there be female reporters in the locker room. So they did a whole thing. It was like 3 different times of me trying to be the first woman in wrestling to get a locker room interview. And so I'm thinking I'm going to meet Flying Brian or Ricky, or I don't remember, Flying Brian or somebody else. And there's Stan Hansen. He's got tobacco in his mouth. He's got tidy whities on. He's got his cowboy hat. He's like, you heifer, get out of here. And he was hit me with his hat, and we were going around like Dusty wanted like 2 chickens getting ready to fight, And I was like, no. And he was like, get out of here. And chased me out of the locker room. So we did that a couple of times. It was fun.
Michael Hayes told me a story. I don't know how true it is. He said, but him and Jimmy Garvin had just come back into where I guess had to be world class. You were there. You were interviewing Abdullah the Butcher. They were supposed to come out with their music playing, and they get interviewed by, and their music, they had to cut the music down, Michael said, because you and Abby couldn't hear what you guys were talking about. So when they introduced him, he went out to the ring with no music. Is that true, or do you even know what I'm talking about?
I don't remember that. I know that Abdullah the Butcher at Clash of the Champions threw me in a water trough.
Oh, that's it. You got that. That's the night he said you got.
Yeah, that was the night. Yeah, it was Falls Count Anywhere in Wichita, and I was the roving reporter for it. And so it was Cactus Jack versus Van Hammer. And so I'm out there going, oh, he's doing this or he's doing that, doing the roving reporter thing. Here comes Abdullah Butcher out of nowhere, picks me up, and he's like, I'm really sorry. And he throws me in a water trough. And I was just like, what else are you guys going to do to me? He was originally, Dusty told me, they were going to back bump me into the pen with the bull. But when the people at the fair said the bull might stab her and kill her, they're like, well, I guess we better not do that. I guess we'll just throw her in the water trough instead. But I billed them for my outfit and my shoes, and they paid it. So that was kind of cool.
You know what's amazing is some of the stuff that was done on live TV as a rib was really strong.
Yeah, and everybody talked about it, and they thought it was the coolest thing, me getting thrown in the water trough. And I'm like, I'm glad you did. I didn't. But, whatever.
And the thing is, now, if you did something like that, there'd be lawsuits, there'd be all kinds of uproar about it. Back then, you did it.
Oh, yeah. You couldn't do anything like that.
Yeah, it's like somebody did something to your bag. You actually blame yourself. I shouldn't have left my bag there.
Right.
Now it's like, how dare
Terry Gordy put a loogie in my wallet one time. I'm not sure if it was him or not, but I think it was. Yeah.
So you had some issues. You had issues with the Freebirds.
I loved them though. I loved them. They didn't like me that much, I guess. But yeah, I think it was him. I'm not sure. He was the only one that had like, the chewing the stuff. So I'm not sure. I can't, but I just wiped it out, went and threw it away, didn't say anything. I didn't go uproar because I knew if I made a stink about it, oh my gosh. Because they did, they put padlocks all over my rent-a-car one time. I don't know who that was. I think it was Michael.
It sounds like something Michael do, yeah.
Yeah.
The
because I remember it started to rain and I turned on the windshield wipers and they were going clanky, 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 clanky. I was like, what the hell? And then another time they padlocked a folding chair to my duffel bag. And I had to go to the airport and put it, I mean, you couldn't do it nowadays, but I put it on the x-ray machine. I got to the gate, there was a lot of people at the gate. So I just opened up the chair and sat in it. I mean, heck, I have a folding chair. Why not sit in it? Right. And I took it back to Atlanta. When I got to Atlanta, I took it by the fire department and they cut it off for me with cutters. Oh yeah, I got ribbed a lot. I look back on it now. At the time, I felt like, why are they picking on me? But now I look back on it and I'm like, that was really funny. That was really some fun stuff.
Yeah, the padlocks were the always present rib. If you ever could find a padlock, you always found a place to put it.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you kind of feel sorry for all these high school coaches that was in charge of the locker room?
Oh my gosh!
One of the organizations come in for a spot show in a high school. Every lock that wasn't locked, and some of them that were locked, you had guys that could actually pick those locks, those rolling padlocks that they had on locker room, and take all the lockers off. The next day, the coach comes in, Coach, I don't have a lock for my locker, and there's not a lock on any of these lockers. Them wrestlers. That had to be something there.
Yeah, it had to be. Yeah, it was probably the Freebirds.
Oh, it was the worst. You get a padlock put on your bag, and you got to carry the dang thing forever until you find
exactly until you get to a fire department where they have the cutters. You're stuck
That's right.
with it.
I can just see you at a fire department, an attractive young lady like you walk in with a padlock on. How did she get that padlock?
Exactly. I know. I just told him it was a joke. They padlocked the chair to my Louis Vuitton. It's a joke.
The worst part was when you had like 6 or 7 of them, though.
Exactly. I've seen that. I only had that done to my car. Like the car, it was a rent-a-car too. Each door handle had a padlock on it, and the windshield wipers had a padlock. I don't know what else was padlocked, but I think that was the only thing padlocked. But I've seen somebody walking in with a bag with like 6, 7 padlocks on it. That's funny. That's funny stuff.
It's funny as long as it's not your bag.
Exactly. As long as it's not mine. But I know where to go now. I just go to the fire department,
Yeah.
I hit Al Snow one time in a car. I was driving behind him, and I used to hit on the road. I hit Al Snow in a car, just ribbing him. And we pull up to a toll booth. We're up in Canada, and he puts it in reverse and just rams me. And he told me later he was trying to hit me hard enough to knock the airbag out.
Oh my gosh!
He's like ramming me, and I'm stuck in there, and I can't do anything. And the guy in the toll booth, poor guy, just wants to get money. He didn't want to crash him up derby and his thing.
The things we did to rent-a-cars back then.
Oh my goodness.
I remember Tommy Rich one time. We stopped and we had a rent-a-car, small rent-a-car. We were going somewhere. This is when we worked for WCW, and Eddie and him bought beer and bought ice. They didn't have a cooler to put the ice in. They just put it in the trunk and put the beer in it. Like, you're going to get that rent-a-car back with nothing but water in the trunk? Yeah, it doesn't matter, Okay.
Tommy was barred from budget rent-a-car, ever renting a car from budget rent-a-car. After the deal when we were running Ohio, Michigan, and West Virginia, that's at the time where I ran over Tommy. He had totaled 3 Lincoln Continentals in like a period of like 6 weeks.
Oh my God!
Total, not wrecked them, but totaled them. Total.
And those things were big back then. They had the big front end. They were metal.
They were tanks.
Those were tanks going down the road. I can't believe you could total 1, let alone 3. That's amazing.
When the last one he rode, and unfortunately nobody was injured in any of them. But he totaled about the barrels on the side of the road, construction zones. They weren't safe with Tommy Rich driving one of those. So he deserved being run over, John.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Shoot up the barrels. Okay.
Barry Windham taught me how to, we'd hit somebody in the car and they threw a rock out and hit our hood and put a big dent in our hood. Of course we're going 70 miles an hour when all this happened, and you tell me about this, they have a hard time believing you, but it's true. I go to turn it in, I got this huge dent in the hood. I said, Barry, what are we going to do? He goes, oh, don't worry about it, kid. He goes, turn it in wet. They'll never see it. The old vet telling me. So we went to a wash and kind of washed off where he scrubbed up the paint. And we turned it, it was wet and you couldn't really see it because it was wet. That's why you ride with a vet.
Yeah, you'll learn. You'll learn a lot how to get away with
something like that. I mean, you guys were trouble, Mr. Brisco.
Well, and I often wondered what course did these guys take that took all these, did all these ribs? I mean, is there a rib course in life that you can, a male led order like the old Charles Atlas weightlifting deal? You tired of getting bullied on the beach, or you tired of getting ribbed in a wrestling room? Buy my book and I'll teach you.
And I'll teach you. Yeah.
Teach you how to rib everybody.
Yeah,
I pulled a couple of ribs on people, but nothing great.
Tell us, Missy, you hear of all the guys' ribs and everything. Was there?
Oh, well, the Nasty Boys left me one time at a bar with the bill, and it was like $300. So I paid it, and I was like, okay, I'll get them back. So the next time we were at a pay-per-view, it was a Clash of the Champions or a pay-per-view. I don't remember which, but I remember I found out what rooms they were in, and I went to the restaurant, and I ordered everything on the breakfast menu to have it delivered at 6 a.m. So they were talking about 6 a.m. They were bringing us breakfast, everything on they had to pay for it. So
wow.
The way to get a wrestler's room number is when they're traveling with their spouse. Ask the spouse, hey, are you guys right next to me in 428? And then give them a room number. The spouse will goes, no, I'm in 314. Go, oh, okay, sorry. Now you got the room number.
Great one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, not that I've ever used that or anything against the Freebird.
I'm sure.
Freebird taught you that, right?
That's right. The Freebirds were the absolute best.
Oh my gosh, they were bad. I loved Buddy though. His son, it was so funny because his son was a baby. And this guy, this has been a long time ago. This has probably been like 15 years or so ago. But I was in Chicago at a wrestling show. And this guy comes up to me and he shows me a picture of a baby and me and John. He's like, that's me. I'm Buddy Roberts' son.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. And he's grown up, I mean, he's like probably 40 now, but almost 40 probably. But yeah, at the time it was amazing. It was amazing to see that because he was just in diapers and we're holding a baby. That's me.
We're thinking there may be some truth to the fact that Tiger King is actually Michael Hayes' son.
Ooh.
You never thought of that, huh?
No, but that's
Now you see the resemblance. Can you not see Tiger King moonwalking around a bunch of those animals?
Yeah. Yeah, he needs to. Yeah, we need to DNA test that.
For sure.
So, Missy, what are you doing now? How do people get a hold of you? All that stuff.
You can find me on Twitter, Missy Hyatt at Twitter, or Instagram, the real Missy Hyatt at Instagram. And then I do wrestling shows. Like I work for Phoenix Championship Wrestling. I'm going to Lubbock next month. 1 second, I'll tell you. Oh, I'll be in Phoenix on July 15th, and then Lubbock on the, I got to put my glasses on, I'm old, you know. On the 22nd, and then Rhode Island, I think it's Warwick for an autograph signing. And then, like, I just got a bunch of stuff coming up. Bunch of cool stuff coming up. I'll be at the gathering.
They can book you through those social media sites, or how do they book it?
Yeah, on my social media, on Twitter. Okay. That's the best way to reach me, is on Twitter.
Awesome. Well, Missy, thank you so much for joining us on our show. And thank you for
having me. You're my favorite show, so now I can say I was on my favorite show.
Well, as soon as I saw you in Dallas, I wanted to get you on the show, because I don't know if we.
Well, thank you.
I don't know if we.
Thank you. I had a mark out moment when I saw you, because I heard that you had said something about me on WWE TV, and Vince yelled at you about that. Like, don't ever say her name or something. Someone told me that. They might have just been ribbing me. You know, I think it was Paul that told me that. Paul Lee told me that or something. But maybe he's just ribbing me, because he knows I would mark for you.
To my knowledge, it didn't happen, but you know.
Yeah.
You know, the thing about it is, it's not just like concussions or CTE or something. We've done thousands and thousands of shows. You know, it's hard to remember certain things. So when you try to tell people,
I can't remember so much stuff. Like I'll get the years wrong. That was 1993. No, that was 1987. You know, I mean, I get years like really off. So I'm real bad about that.
Yeah, but because to us, it wasn't important. You know, you're several cities right in a row. You wrestle the same people, different people, whatever else. You go, hey, remember that time in Amarillo? Remember that time in Louisville? No, I don't.
And we got chewed out so many times by Vince, we can't remember specifically which time it was.
Yeah, I remember I said ass one time. David Manning told me to go up there and say that Sunshine's ass is so big when she's told, no, her butt's so big that if she's told to haul ass, she's got to make a few trips. I said ass, and it was on the show that's on the Christian station, the 2-hour show that was Saturday night, not the Sunday morning Sportatorium show. I came back and he was like, oh my God, we're going to get thrown off. I mean, because this was like 1985. So he's like, oh my God, we're going to get thrown off TV. You said ass. I was like, you told me to say it. Don't tell me to say something. And then I go out there and say it, and then it's wrong. You know, I was really defending myself, but he was so thinking we were going to get thrown off TV for that.
I said one time that I think it was Rikisha. He's got more ass than a donkey farm, and all I heard was that Vincent heard me say ass, and he goes, "What did John say?" And so somebody told him, he goes, "Oh, that's funny." So we let it go. Because
that's good.
As long as it's not done gratuitously, at least as far
as
that's what's concerned.
Mine wasn't done bad. I don't think it was done bad. I don't think it was like bad or anything, but I felt so sorry. I must have gave him a heart attack. I swear to God, I think I gave him a heart attack. But.
Well, Missy, we hope we run into you sometime, and
I hope I run into you guys too.
Maybe we can plan a part 2 down the line here somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. And I'll have some questions for you then.
Okay. I can't wait.
I got some questions for him.
I'm not answering.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.